Hey guys, what's up? Good morning. Happy Sunday. Welcome to another episode of Clangin and Bangin with Mikey, episode 263. And today, what we're going to talk about is discernment, man. Practicing good discernment. The definition of discernment is the ability to judge well. Now, a lot of people might disagree with this or whatever it is. I really don't give a fuck. Practicing, having the ability to judge well is extremely fucking important. I don't care if you're judging the person's situation. I don't care if you're judging, whatever the fuck it is. But having the ability to judge well is extremely important. Because now that I'm approaching 40, it's like everybody who got married in their 20s is either been divorced or getting divorced or whatever it is. Hell, I seen people get married in the same year and get divorced in the same year. Back in my 20s, that was a thing, right? Yeah. Because if love was enough, shit, everybody would be still fucking married. If having kids was enough to make you stay together, shit, everybody would be still married, right? But yeah, practicing discernment is extremely important, man. You don't like you like people don't understand that, bro. It's like I literally got women telling me, X, Y, and Z, that man ain't doing X, Y, and Z. And they're coming to the realization and they say that they're practicing discernment. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not. Because if you was practicing discernment, you would have never hooked up with this guy and or got married and or had kids by him. If you were practicing discernment, you would have fucking ran from that situation fast. You would have been like Lolo Jones. Got the fuck out of Dodge. Track star that shit. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah. It's like you're not practicing discernment. You're coming to the realization that everything you thought that was real about this dude is not. That's not judgment. That's the realization that the situation you're in is falling apart because the other person can't get their shit together. I'm not saying that it's all men, because it's not. That's the one thing I want to make clear. It's not all men. Because not all men are like that, right? Like there are some women out there who are more diabolical than men. And a lot of people don't want to come to that conclusion, or they want to stay stuck in that delusion that, oh yeah, X, Y, and Z. Like, I remember once this brother that we all knew, and he was messing around with this girl, and we all told him like, hey man, like leave this girl alone, like she nothing but trouble, and he didn't listen to us. He gets her pregnant, and now he's dealing with a whole bunch of shit, and I'm like, bro, we told you. We told you from jump that she wasn't worth anything, man. We told you from jump that she was just gonna cause you a shit ton of headaches, and like you don't want to believe us. Now look at you, Now look at you, and and see what you're going through is absolute crazy, because it is, because practicing discernment is extremely important. I don't understand how people can put themselves in situations like that and then turn around and say, oh, well, they're doing this, they're doing that. But like, then why are you still there? You know? Like, if it's really that bad, then why are you still here? You know? It was like, I knew this one lady. She broke up with her boyfriend, and she was telling everybody, well, not everybody, but everybody who asked, X, Y, and Z, and everybody's like, oh damn, if you weren't getting what you wanted, why did you stay for that long? Like if you wanted to get married, if you wanted to do X, Y, and Z, and he wasn't even giving a bare minimum of commitment, then why were you still there? Because it does, bring up people's emotions and logic behind it. I'm like, yeah, like if you want to get married and you're in a relationship that's not doing that or whatever it is, then why are you there? Like why are you still there trying to fill up a void where that where it's not gonna happen, it's not gonna work. And A lot of people, you know, don't realize that or don't want to realize that they're causing their own their own situations. It's like, bro, it's like I know people who got married to the wrong individuals, and it's like if this shit would have went past, if this shit would have deaded after the first date, you know, imagine how different your life would have been. You know, or and here's another tidbit that I've stumbled across. A lot of women will pick the same type of dude, you know, in different men, you know, and then complain about and then complain about how they're treating them or whatever it is, or like they're abusive, you know, they're a cheater, all this other stuff. Like, okay, cool. Like, did you ever stop and vet this guy before you jumped in the sheets? You know? Or like when they do meet a decent dude or a guy who's got it together, a guy who's emotionally mature, you know, who does all the you know, all the little things are important. They don't know how to handle that because they're like, oh, like how do I get in an argument with this guy when he just taking accountability? I've had this shit happen to me, you know, and I literally had to tell this individual like, look, I'm not him. Please don't compare me to him, and that's not fair. You know, stop doing that. You know, and it got to a point where it's like she would say some shit like, "Oh well, every time you didn't call or text back and you said you would, I automatically assumed that you were with somebody else." I'm like, what? You know, I was like, what is your insecurities got to do with me? All right, and I told this girl, I was like, yo, if you want to pop by, pop by. You have my location. You know, you don't have to tell me you coming over. And when you're dealing with somebody who has low self esteem and low self confidence, man, it's draining after a while. You know, because it's never your job to sit there and build somebody up. It's never your job to like, you know, make sure that they're okay mentally. You know, it's like yo, because it's like that's always gonna be a you job. You know, that's always gonna be something that they have to take care of. It's like my responsibility is to leave you better than I found you if we end up breaking up. And it's like, you know, and it's crazy because I ran across this video, and again, brother was talking about, you know, working out on the first date and whatever it is, right? And obviously it's satire. And so I responded back by saying like, yeah, man, I've been doing this since 2009 and yada, yada, yada. And a lot of people were in the comments saying, oh, 16, 17 years with you off first dates. Obviously, it's not working out that well. It's like, no, like, who said I was doing it every year, bro? Like, I haven't, you know? You know, mind you, me and my last girlfriend, we would work out every once in a while, too. So it's like, it's not like, I'm out there, you know, just randomly bringing girls to the gym and fucking, like, you know, whooping their ass, bro. No, it's like, that like that's just something that I did back in the day, and it's like I don't really go out to bars or clubs, and so the gym is my thing. But getting back to discernment, man, sometimes like, you can't blame the other person, bro. It's you, it's it's the people that you pick, it's the guys that you pick, it's the girls that you pick. It's like it's 100% you. It's your responsibility to be responsible with whom you pick, you know? And if something feels too good to be true, most likely is. It's like, I don't understand how women can get duped by a guy saying, oh, yeah, you know, well, like, don't talk to so and so. Like, you know, well, I literally had a dude once told me, oh, my girl knows who she can and can't talk to. And I had no idea that was referenced to me. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Little weird. And my response was like, bro, like she's a grown woman. Like what where do you get off trying to control or go on grown women like that? You know? Now it's different, you know, if you and your girl are beefing and she's talking out the side of her neck and she got some bass in her voice, but hey, do me a favor, please take the bass out your voice. That's different. Like, watch how you talk to me. I'm never gonna stop you from talking to people, you know? And what's sad about that situation, man, is like it wasn't just me, bro. It was all her dude friends that she's known for years, bro. It's like that ended up just, losing contact with her. And then we find out that during COVID she committed suicide, bro. Because she had isolated us so much. And like she couldn't reach out to nobody, man. It's like, or it's like, and that was sad, bro. Like that was really really sad. Like, the hit that she committed suicide, man. Because it's like, but then again too, like it goes back to picking the appropriate dudes. It's like, you know, anybody who tries to control you like that or whatever it is, or anybody who tries to lock you down like that, or let alone lock you down by having a bunch of kids, it's like, bro, it's like, it's not worth it. It's not. And there's a plethora of girls that I know that have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids by a deadbeat, and I'm like, yo, it's like, what? You know? And I hate to break it to you, man, but a lot of guys or women in general, if the roles were reversed, they're not putting up with that. It's like, imagine having to do with all them kids, and it's like you got to, and imagine if they're all from different people. So practicing, like I said, practicing discernment is extremely important because you don't get a mulligan with this shit, bro. You don't get to turn the PlayStation on and turn it off and start the game over, bro. It don't work that way. It's like it's so important because discernments come with boundaries come with clarity, and a lot of the time, man, it's like when you ice people out, because I've been iced out, and it sucks, but it's like majority of the time it has nothing to do with me. It's the other person. It's how they go about things, how they, it also shows that their lack of maturity too. And I'm not talking about people in their 20s. I expect that from somebody in their 20s. I don't expect that from somebody in their 30s, 40s, 50s. It's like, bro, it's like if you don't know how to communicate by now, then you probably never gonna learn. You're never gonna learn how to communicate effectively, because you can't sit there and just ice people out. You can't sit there and like just cherry pick with people, and because in reality, and I was watching this video or this clip last night, and talked about emotional mature people, right? And I'm never going to say that I'm emotionally mature. I'm gonna let my actions speak for that too. It's like, but my thing is like, yo, it's like when you meet somebody like me who holds you accountable, who does X, Y, and Z, it's gonna suck because you're like, damn, I can't, like, damn, this person's mean. This thing, like, no, I'm not fucking mean. I just want you to do better than what you've been doing. I believe in you that much where you should be doing better than what you're doing. I believe in you so much that you should, shouldn't just talk about your goals. You should go out there and go get it done. You shouldn't be telling people X, Y, you shouldn't be telling people your plans and all this other shit, because you know what? People don't care, I've literally just told people after hearing them talk about it a handful of times, like, yo, I believe it when I see it. And they're like, what's that mean? It's like, you need to stop talking about it. It's like, stop talking about what you're going to do. Stop talking about what you want to do. And just go out there and go get it done. It's like, chances are, like, if you just go out there and you get it done, it's like, there's people that are going to be proud of you regardless. It's like, and I think a lot of people who talk about their goals they're too afraid to go get them done. Because if you ever notice, people who are busy conquering their goals, conquering what they want to do, conquering, you know, their objectives, they're not out there talking about it. They're not out there filling 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 the atmosphere with hot air. You know, they're not doing that. And I think a lot of people would benefit more from just putting their head down and grinding out the work. Like, I'm not saying that you got to be perfect 24/7, because ain't nobody perfect 24/7, but it's like, hold yourself accountable, you know? Whether it's you want to lose weight, you know, or whatever it is. You want to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, cool, great. That involves a diet plan. That involves a meal plan, whatever it is, you know? It's like, you know, that involves you sticking to it and getting the certain macronutrients that you need, and, you know, hitting your numbers, and, you know, and going to the gym, you know, at least 3-4 days a week, maybe 5 or 6, you know, which to me is kind of crazy. So most I ever do is 5, bro. I can't, shit, I can't do 6 or 7. That's crazy. That's not gonna happen. But yeah, that's what a lot of people don't understand, man, because you don't want to be that person that just ends up just talking about what they're gonna do. You know, talking about your goals is great. You know, your ambitions is great. But if all you doing is talking about it, then what are you really doing? You know. But getting back to that video about dealing with emotionally intelligent people, we're scary to do it. We are scary to deal with, because not only are we gonna keep it 100 with you, we're gonna hold you accountable, whether you want to hear it or not. You know, we're gonna hold you accountable, whether you want to deal with it or not. It's like, there's one person of mine that I used to be friends with. She would always say, "Oh yeah, you know, pay me a better wage, just and this and that," and like, and her response, because she was managing care homes, you know, private care homes. Okay, cool, whatever. And like, she would always say like, "Oh, pay me a nurse's wage and I'll care more." And I'm like, "Well, do you have a 4-year degree?" You know, and the answer was, "No, you don't." She's like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, like, you always complaining about being paid more. You don't realize if you had a 4-year degree, you know, she has a 2-year degree, which doesn't really pay her much, you know. It doesn't. Well, depending on what you do. Um. So yeah, there's that, and so she was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, you gotta realize that these people put in the hours to get that pay. You know, like, they didn't wake up one day and just get paid the amount of money they get paid. You know, because believe it or not, without nurses, doctors can't do their fucking jobs. You know." And I said, "You're always complaining about, you know, wanting a better career, wanting to do X, Y, and Z, but when the moment comes for you to go get that, you shrink. It's like, when the moment comes for you to go get what you want, to say this, you know, after you say what you want is available, you shrink, and there's always some excuse." And I had asked this individual point blank, it's like, "Do you really want it as bad as you say you want it? Because if you did want it, you wouldn't be coming up with all these excuses. These excuses wouldn't be a thing." And she was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, like, these excuses wouldn't be a thing, but like, apparently they are, because you're over there making excuses over a situation that you have 100% control in. Like, who makes excuses? You know, excuses like that. You know, who who doesn't know how to handle business? You know, and at the end of the day, like, you have to realize that some people, man, they just love to talk about what they, what they want to do, you know, not what they doing, what they want to do, yeah. And it's frustrating to me because it's like, oh, it's like if you spent as much time as you did fucking talking, imagine what you could get done if you just stopped fucking talking, you know. Same girl that I'm talking about earlier. She was she was contemplating doing a bodybuilding show because she had just broken up with her significant other. I said, okay, cool, great. I was like, oh, I'll see you on stage. And I told her like, hey, but point blank is like, I don't want to hear you complain about how difficult this is, and none of your relationship shit. She's like, what? I was like, yeah. I'm like, if you decide to do it, do it. Don't talk about just doing it, And literally 2, 3 months later, she stopped dieting. She stopped really training hard, and I'm like, yeah, you don't want it because you keep like I told her, like, you keep disappointing yourself. You keep lying to yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you really wanted it, you would have found a way to go get it done. It wouldn't have been pulling hair. It wouldn't have been X, Y, and Z. Like, if you really wanted this shit, you would go, like, you would go get it done. You just don't want it. And you know what? That's fine. But stay out the way for people who do want to go get it done. And a lot of people call me an asshole, but it's the truth, though, because it's like, you're taking up space. You're taking up opportunities from somebody else to go chase their goals, to go get what they want, because they know what they want. And what's sad is that people like her, people who think like her, they're a case of not practicing discernment, because that individual, for whatever situation that she was in, she always found a way to play the victim. And I'm like, there's no way that in every situation you can be the victim. I told her what it sounds like is like, it sounds like you have poor judgment. It sounds like you don't know how to use discernment. It sounds like you don't know how to take accountability. It sounds like you don't know how to handle shit as a grown adult that you should be able to handle. And this might be a little bit too much information, but so she breaks up, with her significant other. And this happens to be a guy I went to high school with. He's okay dude, whatever. So and I said, oh, and I come to find out one of his family members had cancer, and they were together for like 5 years. So she knew everybody, right? And I said, okay, well, that's unfortunate, but it has nothing to do with you. Mind you, I've known this guy since we was in middle school, right? And I wasn't trying to, like, get in between, whatever it is, because it's like, I shot my shot with her, and like, it didn't work out. And I said, yeah. I said, but, okay, that's unfortunate, but what's that got to do with you? And she was like, what? I was like, yeah. It was like, that's unfortunate, but like, not that somebody's dealing with some health ailments, but that has nothing to do with you. And it was like, and she said, well, like, the whole, the dreaded sentence that we all dread, like, oh, well, I just want to be friends with him. I was like, no, you don't want to be friends with you. And I was like, from a guy's point of view, no. Unless we don't find somebody physically attractive, that's the only way we're not going to be friends with them. I mean, the only way that we are going to be friends with them is that. Because believe it or not, most guys who are friends with women, we trying to fuck. That's just simply what it is, And it's like, and I'm talking about, like, I've seen dudes wait decades to shoot their shot. And it's like, when it fucking bombs out, it bombs out. Because it's weird. Anyway, and I said, and I told her, like, oh, it's like, yeah, it's unfortunate, but that has nothing to do with you, Like you need to be. I told her, you need to stop being so available for people who aren't available for you. You need to stop checking up on people and start setting boundaries. It's like, I'm never that dude that's gonna chase you, that's gonna over text you, that's gonna overthink it. Of course, I'm gonna think about you, you know. I'm not gonna text you, I'm not gonna call you. I'm not gonna be the one putting in all this effort when the effort's not being returned. Like if it's not being reciprocated, then why would I ever would I want to be around somebody like that? That's never made any sense to me. It's like, okay, because when I call people, they call me back or they text me back, whatever it is. I don't, you know, I don't have to force a conversation with them or vice versa. And if I feel like I'm having, if I feel like I'm having a forced conversation with somebody, I just leave them alone. You know, I don't like being forced to have a conversation I'm not ready to have. And it's crazy to me how people will sit there and be like, after they're romantically involved with you, and they tell people like, oh well, like, even though we've had sex, we've done X, Y, and Z, yada yada yada. Well, let's try to remain friends. And most of the time, it ain't the guy who's saying it; it's the girl. And I swear to God, bro, ladies, from a guy's point of view, that is so fucking cringe, so cringe. Because it's almost like you want to keep tabs on us from a friend point of view, and I'm like, we can't go back to being friends. Like, that's not logical at all. And when I say that, because it's not, it's like, okay, we're going to be friends for what reason? Like, we're not friends. We're never going to be friends. We can be cordial with each other, but, you know, but, like, if you wanted to be friends with somebody, we would have kept it there. It would have never ventured into other arenas with us being intimate, us having sex, us doing X, Y, and Z. Is like, because there's a certain point in time, and once you cross those boundaries, it's a wrap, bro. It's like, I don't know what to tell you, because once you have sex with somebody and you're in a relationship with them, then yeah. And and it depends what type of relationship that is. It's like, I've had girls tell me like, "Oh, I just want to be friends with you," and it's like, but they're always the one wanting to hook up X, Y, and Z. I'm like, no, like, we're not friends. You're just somebody who let me hit. Like, I hate to break it to you, but it's the truth. And I was like, and I think that's where a lot of people struggle with that, because like they want to have that connection, but then they realize you're like, oh, like, you should have thought about that connection before you did what you did. You know, if you really liked an individual for who they were, whether it's a guy or a girl, you should have practiced discernment and you should have left it there. You know, just because believe it or not, there are some people who are better off as friends, no matter how bad they are, no matter how fat that ass is, no matter how big your titties are. It's like they're better off as friends than anything else. Because once you venture into a relationship, you're dealing with emotions, you're dealing with all these other chaotic things going on, and it's like, is it really worth it? And it's not. Because I think a lot of people will be like, oh, well, if we gave it a shot, I'm like, no, not really. It's like, I've been spending a lot of time on Threads, and I commented on this one girl's post, and like the brother sent her a long fucking message. And I said, well, you know what? Like, his thoughts are valid, and his honesty is appreciative. But it's from what I read, I told her, it sounds like it's a performance. Because he sent her like fucking paragraphs of text messages, right? Like 3 or 4 paragraphs. And if he would have just simply said, hey, look, I find you attractive, I find you funny, all that, but I'm not attractive to you. But if you're down with being friends, then we can try that. Because sometimes, like, and I told her too, like, over explaining yourself is also a sign of not being emotionally stable. Because not everybody needs to have a response. Not everybody needs to be, like one of my aunts told me this when I was in my 20s, and he's talking about social media and communication and everything too. And she's like, well, you know, like not every phone call or text message needs to be responded to. And I'm like, yeah. And it took me a while to learn that. But when I did learn it, because a lot of the times some people don't even want you around. They just want to know if they still have access to you. And when you're sitting there and you're in that situation, you're like, damn, like I didn't really know it was like this. And then like once you take your emotions out of the situation and you realize, oh fuck, it really is like this. Okay, let me switch up. You know? Like not in a bad way, but let me put my emotions in this box over here and leave this person over here. And so when I deal with them, it's not emotionally charged. And it takes a lot, you know, it takes a lot for a person to do that. Like, you know, like I've never been to therapy. You know, I'm a psychology major by trade, but so it's like I'm always looking at shit. I'm always, you know, processing shit a different way. And I think that's important, man. It's like to understand what deserves your attention and what doesn't. You know, that doesn't mean stop being a good person. I'm not saying that. You know, I'm not saying if you're a loving individual, if you're X, Y, and Z, then be that. You know, like don't think that don't think, oh yeah, well just because some guy, some girl broke my heart, I'm gonna be a cold heartless bastard. Like no, it's like practice discernment and practice who gets to have you at those certain levels. And if they don't work out, cool. They don't stay there. You know, it's like how I equate my friendships, you know, or romantic interests. It's like I have them in tiers. It's like it's 4 tiers. Obviously, the first tier is acquaintances, you know, and the second tier is like, you know, friendships. Third tier is more like day one type of dudes, are real close friends, and it's like people I can call, you know, if I'm in a jam, and that's my significant other too. But the last tier is strictly just for significant others, you know, and I'm not talking about people you hook up and randomly have sex with or whatever it is. I'm talking about somebody that you're committed to, somebody that you want to do life with, somebody that you accept for all their flaws and all the shit that they have going on, and you rock with them until whatever reason, you know. And that's what it is, man. It's like I think a lot of people don't take time to categorize people and to put them where they need to be. You know, a lot of the times people will be like, oh yeah, well I like this person because he or she got a fat ass, or like, you know, like you know, they in shape or whatever it is. Okay, cool. How's their mental health? How's their financial health? How are they with their family? How does, you know, how does she treat her dad, if her dad's still alive? And how does he treat his mom? Because I'm gonna tell you this, a lot of old heads hit me to this, and they said how somebody treats their parents will show you how they treat you, and it makes sense. Regardless if people want to believe it or not, it makes sense. Because if you see that, and if you see somebody being disrespectful or whatever it is, then chances are they're going to treat you the same way, maybe even treat you worse, you know? and another thing too I learned in my 20s, again, older people hit me, you know, put me onto this. They said like, yo, never argue, you know, with somebody when you're angry. Or never have a conversation with somebody who's trying to force you to have that conversation. Whether it's, you know, you take your time, whether it's a couple days, a week, whatever it is, you know, take your time to process that shit. Because you can always come back. and say what you feel in a calm, collected state. But what you can't do, you can't take that shit back. Once you're fucking mad and blowing the fuck up. And a lot of people don't sit there and they don't take that time to process. You know, it's like my last relationship. Basically, she wanted to remain friends, and I'm like, I can't do that. You know, and I remember once she told me, "Oh, would you ever tell me if you were talking to somebody new?" And I go, "Well, it depends. It depends on the fact that like if we're talking every day and we're and if and if we're talking about getting back together and if it's moving that way or if it's moving too slow, if it's stagnant, whatever it is, then yeah, I would tell you because you deserve that. You know, I don't want to waste your time and you know, or whatever it is because that's not fair to you. But I said like if we're talking sporadically, periodically, text messages here and there, phone calls here and there, I'm not gonna tell you anything. And she was like, "Why?" And I said, "Because you don't, because you're not present in my life. Just because you text me every once in a while doesn't mean that you're present. You're just reaching out to see if I'm still available." And I said, if it was option A, I would tell you and then I would cut you off. And then she was like, "Why?" Because I told her like, what does it look like me trying to build a relationship with somebody else? And I got to explain to this girl that, oh yeah, by the way, the girl calling, the girl texting her all the time, that's my ex. She gonna be like, why is your ex calling and texting you? Make it make sense. You know, and that's something that a lot of people they don't want to come to terms with that, bro. And I'm like, hey, that's cool, it's whatever, you know. But make sure that those boundaries are implemented. Make sure that they're known. It's like, and lastly, bro, we way too fucking old to be ghosting niggas, man. It's like, and when I say niggas, I just mean people in general. Communicate effectively, and this overall know how to handle your emotions, man. Like I said, I'm gonna wrap it up again. Put a bow on it. Practicing discernment will save you a lot of heartache and a lot of trauma and a lot of pain, you know, years down the road, decades down the road. Do that with your boo, man. But this is about 38 minutes of your life that y'all won't get back. Hope y'all keeping the full peace, proper player, positive pushing. I will see y'all next week Sunday. I love y'all. Like I always say, excuse me, know your worth because you're better than what you are. All right, y'all. Y'all have a beautiful Sunday. Peace. All right. Later.